Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now, before anybody gets started, yes, I saw it, and we will talk about it tomorrow on Ship Updates. I saw it. Woo, the Reclaimer. But, yeah, so today's show is going to be something just a little bit different, because in a weird way, it kind of relates to a conversation that I had with somebody in regards to WoW late last night, and I was like, wow, you know what, this kind of transposes into Star Citizen. This is something that, you know, this is a point that I've kind of made before, but it's one of these things I kind of want to reiterate, and it has to deal with people who aren't currently playing Star Citizen. Now, I'm not saying it in a bad way, like, oh, those of you who just aren't playing the game. You know, I understand that in the state that the game is right now, it certainly isn't the most fun. It's very difficult, even for PCs like mine, to handle it, and usually my PC handles games pretty darn well. I mean, it's obviously not like the greatest PC out there. It's not the greatest gaming rig, but it certainly holds its own when it needs to, and Star Citizen really kind of puts a strain on it, and I think more than is justified given my hardware. So I realized that the game doesn't really work very well at this current stage. Also, downloading 30 gigabytes and then possibly getting all kinds of patches, I would say that that isn't so much of a problem now, because now with the Delta Patcher, you get the big download in the beginning, and then you get smaller downloads to begin with. It isn't like back when we were dealing with the, what was it? Right before 3.0 came out, when some of us got preview or got early access to that, and we were downloading new patches every other day. It isn't like that anymore, so it makes it a lot easier to maintain once you get over that initial download. I know some of you don't have the fastest internet speeds for downloading, but it really is something that unless you're dealing with a hard data limit on your account, I don't know, whatever internet you have, maybe that's a problem. Setting it to download when you go to bed and then just having it there when you wake up in the morning, it's no big deal. I mean, I used to have kind of mediocre internet as well, and so I would have to deal with that. So it's something that if you kind of just set it off in the background when you're not really using your PC for anything, you know, you'll have it the next day, and it's just a question of reminding yourself to do that, like how I remind myself I want to download and try World of Warships again, but then keep forgetting to do it. And the reason why I think that you should give it a try, just, you know, give it a little bit of play here and there, you know, explore the game a little bit and try it out. And how this relates to the conversation I was having last night, was like we were talking about going into the next expansion in WoW, which is Battle for Azeroth, and we were kind of making plans what we were going to do in the guild up until then, and you know, we threw around various ideas. You know, we can do this, we can do that, and we can do a whole bunch of alts and gear them all up, and then we're all set, and yada yada yada. But during that, we were talking about what our favorite expansions were, and I said, you know, for me, it was Wrath of the Lich King. That was a huge expansion for me. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I made a comment where I said, I wish that I could take everything I know about the game now and transpose that into myself back in 2009, end of 2008, beginning of 2009, when Wrath of the Lich King released. Whatever. Around then, when Wrath of the Lich King came out, I wish I could take all the knowledge that I have now and then put it in myself back then, because that would have vastly improved my experience when I was playing in the early days, because there's so much more that I know now that I didn't know then. I mean, back then I wasn't really good at key binding or anything like that, and I picked up all these skills. I forced myself to learn a lot of skills and to learn a lot about the game, and not how I idealized the game should operate, but how to best work within the confines of how the game actually does operate. There's a lot of that information. It's like they're like intangibles. They're things that you can't really point to and say it's this object or it's that object, but it's the things that you just, all these little bits and pieces that you pick up along the way that slowly coalesce into this picture that make you a better player. It's that help you fill out how the game works and how to best work within the game. And right now in Star Citizen, yeah, there's not a lot to do. I mean, when I make these videos, when you guys see me and I'm just kind of going from system to system. I wish we were going from system to system, from moon to moon, or from moon to Olisar and trading and making money. Yeah, there's not a whole lot here. There's some emergent gameplay that you can engage in, but for the most part, it's just generally slowly exploring what's happening and what you can do within the confines of the game. Not a lot to do, but there's a lot of little bits and pieces that I pick up along the way. A lot of little shortcuts and a lot of things I teach myself. Keybinds that I refine and make work in such a way that it's much more convenient for me as a player. And I realize, oh, if I get in a combat scenario, this button and this button, if I'm trying to use, this as my up and down strafe or my side strafe, this could come into conflict when I need to use this ability, so I should actually move this keybind over here. That sort of thing. It's that sort of knowledge that you pick up along the way that that really helps you out, and I think makes you a better player along the way. It's that experience. And a lot of these things, like, I pick up, like, you might look at it and say, like, oh wow, that guy plays a lot of Star Citizen, but for a lot of the video footage that you guys see, I really don't. A lot of what you see is generally the product of me sitting down on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I'll play for maybe like 2-3 hours. I'll record all of it as one big chunk of video, and then during the week I'll piece that all out. And a lot of the things are just like, they're just like these little tidbits that I pick up along the way. And that's how I don't get like burnt out on Star Citizen. And that's how I enjoy it. And it's picking up those little pieces of knowledge along the way that I think is the real value of playing a game so early on in the alpha. Is a lot of these things will come into play later on when you're developing as a player, and having it earlier versus having it later can really improve your situation down the road. Now, there certainly is a lot of truth to the statement that if you're playing a game in alpha and you're thinking this is how it's going to be when it's finally released, you're wrong. 100%. So much of this game, the settings, the values, how things are going to work out, how a ship handles, how a ship fights, so many of these things can ultimately change. Like we can sit here and talk about, remember the days when the Super Hornet had like Panthers all over, and people were using Panthers all over the place, and then that kind of got nerfed out. But it was, having that, learning how to use it, that knowledge still has some value, because people can then look at that and say, you know what, now I kind of know how that works. Can I adapt this regarding the new changes? Can I adapt some of that experience and take it to the new Super Hornet? And maybe it's not the all Panther Super Hornet, but it's something much closer, something much better. You can use that knowledge later on, even if it's something as little as kind of just figuring out the lay of the land, or getting used to which places offer the most profit over which other ones. It's one thing to just have the spreadsheet and know the information, but it's another thing to say, hey, you know what, I find that sometimes, yeah, I know that I can go over to Deacon's research and I can just get medical supplies, and that makes a greater profit. But for me, it's just easier to just fly to Yella or Daymar, and whichever landing site is facing back towards Olisar, that's where I'm going to go. I'm just going to go, load up, aim right back at Olisar, and and just quantum right back to Olisar. We know that quantum will be fixed in the future, and that we will have to go and turn around and fly up out of the atmosphere before we can quantum, but for right now that works. But maybe that's a strategy, even figuring flying up out of the atmosphere, that's a strategy that might still work for you, especially if you're flying around in something like a Cutlass. So if you do have the means, if your PC can support it and run it, and it's not just it's not like the Star Citizen PowerPoint presentation, but it's remotely playable, give it a shot. Play it not from the perspective of trying to have fun, as odd as that sounds, but play it from the perspective of gaining information about the universe and helping make informed decisions about what you plan to do in the future. I think if you approach it in that way, it's obviously not the most fun game to play in its current state, but I think that the things that you can learn from playing it are certainly going to help you in the future. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.